as we have been doing, which has been our tradition of late with the Zoom meetings, this meeting is going to be a combination meeting of the Harbor Management Commission and the Application Review Committee. It's going to be a simultaneous meeting. We're going to review the applications and vote on them as they come up. Or we may vote them in mass after the speakers for each one is done. I think that's more appropriate. John, is that the way you like to do it? Or do you want to have comments during the meeting?
John, you came garbled through there.
I said, do you want to vote on these applications as we've done recently? Or do you want to wait till the end and then put them through that way?
Well, whichever is going to expedite, because we have a long meeting tonight.
All right, so let's do them individually as they come up and they arise. And if the uninterested parties, they can get off the call. It's a public meeting regardless, so it doesn't really matter. So I'm calling the meeting to order. John Crespo, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Yes. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
to the flag of the United
of the United States of America
and to the republic
for
which it stands,
One
one
nation.
nation,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, unfortunately, also, we need to have at least a moment of silence for our lost brother, Tony Mobilia. He was very much a part of this whole scenario, and part of this meeting later on, we're going to talk about tributes that we're going to give to him. So, a moment of silence, please. Okay, thank you. Do you need a roll call, Brian, or you're all set with who's on the call? We do have a quorum. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or more is a quorum. So we're all set there. Applicant, we'll go right into application review because that's chock full of different items. So I'll turn the meeting over to you, Chairman Pinto.
Thank you, sir. We have on our first on the agenda. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Our first item on the agenda is 3450 Smith Street application. The applicant is O&G Industries, and it proposes to dredge about 1,300 cubic yards of contaminated sediment utilizing. I'm sorry. Oh, I heard it. I heard the feedback. All
You're
right.
just getting feedback, Joe.
All right. I don't know why. All right. Utilizing a long reach hydraulic excavator operating from a spud barge and excavating within a movable boom turbidity curtain. Sediment will be placed in a container dewatering area on an upland aggregate storage area and disposed of at an appropriate upland waste facility. In addition, the aforementioned dredge material, the applicant is seeking approval to complete maintenance dredging of an additional 1,000 approximately cubic yards of material along the barge berthing area as previously authorized under a previous COP. And I've asked Richard Warren to present. And I think, Richard, you have an engineer with you? You have another person online with you? You're muted, Richard.
Yes, Richard Warren here for O&G and our LEP, Mark Gottlieb with Catalyst Environmentalism.
Brian, why are we're getting a feedback for some reason? You know?
Yeah, I think it might be coming from Michael, but so I'll just keep muting him until Michael, if you have to talk, just unmute yourself. But until then, try to stay muted because we're getting feedback from you.
Oh, all right. No, Richard, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Fair enough. We're here this evening. Thank you. Thank you, commission members, for your patience. I know this was on the agenda for quite some time. We had submitted a first round draft of our application, and then there was quite a bit of back and forth with DEP. We've been working with two different departments trying to understand what exactly the remediation division is looking for us to do, and then at the same time needing to work through Long Island Sound programs to dredge the material that is being requested to come out. So we've combined in our application both a remediation portion as well as standard maintenance dredging, since we're going to have since we're expecting to have dredging operations occurring at the barge berth. We included wanting to do the maintenance dredging of the facility itself to incorporate being able to bring materials back into the site. As Mr. Pinto explained, there is a portion of the material that is considered contaminated under the DEP remediation division. The former owner of the property at what we call 34 Smith Street, the building that was known as the Faro building, there is material that through a remediation cleanup that has been ongoing and under review by DEP since ONG purchased the property, it was determined that they wanted sediment testing done in the Norwalk River. They determined that there were levels of both lead and antimony that were above levels that they felt were reasonable to leave untouched in the river. So after numerous rounds of testing and discussions about what was acceptable, whether it was better to honestly leave materials versus access those materials or disturb those materials, we've come up with a plan. They outlined two areas in the harbor that they are requesting to be remediated under this dredging application. And if it's beneficial, I apologize with the Zoom process. I can submit either through the last email to the commission or directly to Dr. Pinto. The DEP actually asked for us to color coordinate and distinguish the areas that have previously been permitted, because the bulk of the area has been permitted either under our own permit, which you note COP 2000-031 SM. That was the maintenance dredging previously done at our berth. And then there's also, as you know, been federal channel dredging done. So a portion of the remediation area is in the federal channel. And again, I apologize if I stepped on any toes. Because of the material that needs to be removed in the channel, in the federal channel, I received communication directly from the Army Corps asking for a letter of no objection, which I thought would come from your commission, and they responded by email saying that they wanted a letter from the mayor. So I overstepped, and I apologize. If it all comes from you, that's great.
No. Maybe if I could interrupt, Richard, it's Jeff.
Yes.
Now that I hear what you just said, I think you're correct, because the Corps has a program or regulatory program called a Section 408 program now, that if you do anything in a federal civil works project, including a channel, this is different than their normal environmental. It's in addition to. So
Yeah.
yes, you're right. With respect to the 408 program, they do require a letter from the chief elected official. So it's not, now I understand why they asked you to do that.
That wasn't made plain to us in the beginning.
Yeah, that's like Eversource needing the mayor's signature to proceed with the 408 application for the electric lines.
Right.
So this is in addition to the Harbor Commission's, but yeah, it is specific to the 408 process, Richard.
I truly did not understand that, because the application which we submitted to you was the entire outlined area, including the channel area. That's what we submitted to DEP looking for their permit. So it was my assumption that it was all submitted to you, and therefore that was all we needed to do to forward to the Corps. They came back to me saying they needed this extra piece, and so that's why I had drafted that letter.
Well, we understand it now. Thank you for being here, so we do understand it, what you were doing. All right.
Well, when it started it, I received a daisy chain of letters, from the corporate council, and then it went to the Alexis, and then it went to the mayor's office, and it went just sort of round Robin Hood's barn, and saying, well, we do support maintenance dredging, and I wasn't quite sure what the issue was that had to go directly to the mayor. But now, again, yes, the 408 aspect with the Army Corps is quite plain now.
But again, does this commission not address the channel as well? I thought that still falls under your purview.
Yeah. So the commission, without going into the whole, this 408 process is new. And
Okay.
it doesn't have to do with issuing a permit for the impacts of your dredging or structures or anything like that. It's just with respect to affecting a federal public works project, which is the channel.
Okay.
So they're going to have to determine that, I guess the main purpose is for them to determine that what you're proposing isn't going to interfere with the use of the channel or with their future maintenance of the channel. They're not giving you a permit for dredging in this instance or disposal or impact on the environment. It's just the effect on their project. And that requires the chief elected official to send a letter to the Corps.
Well, what's happening now, Richard, it's being vetted through the Harbor Commission because we're the ones that are relegating and take care of the regulation part and have to forward an approval letter with comments and notes.
Okay.
It gets vetted here.
That makes perfect sense.
No. You want to continue? So we're certainly quite aware of the two projects, two basic projects. One being a contaminated area, and then one being in a previously dredged area right next to the bulkhead. The question now is the attendance to the contaminated material.
To continue on the process, because of the contamination, we are not looking. We questioned whether the levels are relatively low, but above what remediation division considers acceptable. So we had originally requested a review to see whether there was any potential for an open water location to take them. That was taken off the table basically in discussion with the remediation division. So we have now determined that we will take all the material out of the river. We will stockpile it on the site at 3450 Smith Street. We will line the site, the area that's necessary for that with poly, cover it at the end of every day. We'll dewater into a frac tank, address the water as far as any review of contaminants in there before getting permission to discharge that, hopefully to WPCA. And then once the material is dewatered, we will then do an upland disposal, again, reviewing the sediment analysis of the material that comes out, because truth be told, we will treat everything as contaminated material at that point, despite the fact that we were not going to try and segregate the 1,100 yards from the 1,290 yards. We're doing this dredge all as one process. We're looking to operate the actual dredging with turbidity curtains in place for any area that's considered the contaminated area, so that we aren't dispersing anything as the dredging is occurring. If I just lost a main screen, okay, now it's more of me than I want to see. If it is not approved, the placement of a turbidity curtain and booming could be done for the entire project. We would, because we are looking at no levels of contamination in the bulk of our maintenance area, we would request that we not have to use the tighter environmental restrictions over the entire project. That regardless of your recommendation, I'm not sure how deep we'll respond to that request either. So
as you understand, so that as the using an excavating bucket, as that bucket is coming up, water is being eliminated from that bucket within the boomed-in area, turbidity curtain area, and then being deposited up on an upland section that's
correct.
Been cordoned off with a plastic, I guess, tarp, whatever around there. And that water now, that excess water, you say, is going into a little sump area.
Right. we will set the containment area that we set on land. Our plan is to excavate a drainage trench below the plastic, set up a sump at the end of the dewatering area, and install a frac tank during the process of this excavation, dredging, so that any water that is brought out on land is then pumped into the frac tank, tested for disposal. So no groundwater discharge, no discharge just to land in any way, shape, or form.
So you haven't got permission yet from the water treatment plant to dispose of any volume of water through their system?
We have not. No, that would need to come as the process is occurring, as testing is done of that water that's sampled.
Yeah. So in other words, you're going to be doing heavy metal. You're going to be doing metal testing in that water volume itself.
If that's a requirement from WPC, whatever their restrictions are to us, we'll meet their guidelines.
Does any of the commissioners have any? Jeff, you have a question?
Just wondered, so Richard, you've initiated the discussion with the Water Pollution Control Authority to do this?
I have not.
What happens if they, but it's your understanding that this sort of contamination or material can be discharged into the wastewater treatment plant, or what happens if they don't allow you to do it?
Well, I'll defer. If I answer poorly, I'll defer to my LEP, but my understanding, what's considered the contamination that we are looking at remediating is, and I had this question under the Office of Long Island Sound as well. Anything that is considered a contaminant, we're expecting to settle out. It's not that it's going to be contained in the discharge water. So our expectation, quite honestly, is that the whatever is held in the frac tank, whatever is pumped off as dewatered material, is not in any way going to be highly contaminated. So we're not expecting that there will be any difficulty in getting approval to discharge that.
Because we were reviewing, or I was reviewing, and I'm sure some of the other commissioners were reviewing the the water treatment plant's application. They're going through a renewal in their application. And if you look at their limitations in what they're able to do, it's certainly kind of interesting to see whether they would accept that amount of water through their system. But again, that's certainly up to them to decide how they want to do that.
I'm just wondering, not to interrupt again, but I know with the contamination was much higher in the Exide project in Fairfield, but in that instance, they dewatered the lead contaminated material. They collect the dewatered water, if that's what you call it, then had to go through a treatment facility before it could be discharged back into the harbor. So I'm just wondering if, but I guess what DEP told us is that their approval will they can't tell you how to do this, only that you have to do it according to, the proper way to do it. So I guess if the Water Pollution Control Authority doesn't allow you to do it, you'll have to figure out another way to do it properly.
Well, yes, I'm 100% certain that would be a condition of the approval. I mean, we're not going to splash water onto the ground and walk away.
Yeah, and
Not
then
enough.
That would be one of our conditions.
Sure.
Yeah, and Deep also, and I guess you saw you responded to them today. They had asked the question why you can't use an environmental bucket to do the dredging, and your response was that the substrate is hard packed and rocky, and you need the teeth in the normal bucket to be able to excavate the material.
We literally had difficulty getting the samples that Deep wanted with a drill bit. So yes, using an environmental bucket, we did not think was going to accomplish any level of dredging that's being requested.
All right, and then while I'm talking, and I'll try to stop. How did the contamination get in the harbor, Richard?
There's quite a bit of question and dispute over it. As you know, the Faro building, the property was at one time a manufacturing site of lead aprons for X-ray tech. So the question came up, was it material that was airborne at some point during manufacturing? Has it been in the harbor a long time? Is it something that over years has built up? It's nothing, truly nothing from anything we've manufactured or done on site. This is an existing condition to the site that they are following up on from the property itself being a part of the Transfer Act.
Right.
Well,
But you don't think it came through the bulkhead? You know, we had the example downstream where we were concerned about material continuing to leak in, discharge into the harbor through the bulkhead. But you've replaced your bulkhead since the time that this contamination.
They addressed that in the application, Jeff. They mentioned that it was most likely due to a breach in the bulkhead previous to its repair.
So we can be pretty certain that there isn't a continuing discharge of this, that your bulkhead your new bulkhead has effectively sealed off the upland from any additional discharge into the harbor.
We do believe that. We did receive a permit previously from your commission to do the bulkhead repair. That was some years back. At the time, that there was not, truth be told, there was not testing asked or required from DEEP at that point. And had it been done at that point, perhaps that certainly could have contributed to anything that is in the river. So perhaps we might have been at this a lot more quickly and maybe in a smaller area had we looked at that point.
But we don't have any reason to expect that there's any continuation of discharge into the harbor.
No, not based on the bulkhead repair. It's new steel sheeting with concrete cap above. So
which took place after this material would have got into the harbor in the first place.
Yes, there's been no manufacturing or operation that would continue beyond that or beyond that date. Correct.
And then I apologize for one more thing. What are your plans for using, you're dredging the rest of your berthing area? What are your plans for any water dependent uses in the near future? Do you have
So
any
we would
specific
like,
plans?
at the time that the first application was submitted, we were in the process of preparing an upland application. We had been in discussion with the Land Use Bureau to use the facility again as a distribution facility, bringing in materials by barge. That's still in our mix of proposed work, but the application did not get submitted through land use. We went in another direction, partially due to the requirements that the time frame of getting this dredging application completed, not in your hands, certainly in our discussions with DEEP. So it is still in our envelope of proposed uses to reactivate that site for material movement by barge, aggregates coming in by barge, trucking off site, no processing, but a distribution facility.
But you don't have any immediate plans for that, and that would require a land use approval to do that. All right.
Correct. But yes, because we need to make some modifications to the site, so it does require land use.
Any of the commissioners have any questions?
I think there was some what I'd like to see happen is a motion be made for this application, and then we can have discussion on the motion and then close it out. All right? It will be more expedient that way.
Well, our previous comments usually indicate that we promote, maintenance dredging, certainly in the harbor, and certainly as far as I right now have no immediate objection to what they plan to do, as long as they get the proper permit and handle the effluent in an expeditious manner.
So that's the motion then. Is there a second to the motion? Anybody want a second? Dennis seconds it. So now let's have discussion on the motion. I know Chris wanted to weigh in on couple specific items.
Yes. So looking at the footprint of the remedial dredging that is in the channel itself, it cuts pretty far into the bank on the, I guess that's the west side. You're coming from the east side, and I think, and I'm trying to forward this concept to the commission and for all applicants, that part of the Harbor Commission's purview and responsibility is to promote the dredging of the navigable channel, and much in the same way that if a developer or somebody was coming in and impacting a local street and making modifications, that they may be required to, to modify an intersection or repave a road in front of their property. I think we should approach work like this or any development along the navigation channel that, especially since you're coming in there and dredging, that you do more than just the footprint you are required to do for remediation. If I may share my screen, let's see, do that. Yeah. So this is, I've added some hatching here and here, so this is the dark area is your remediation footprint. This bank goes down to, looks like 6 or 7 feet. You're proposing going down to these are minus numbers, minus 12. You would be doing a 4 or 5 foot cut along your remediation there. I mean, everybody knows that a 4 or 5 foot cut in mud is not going to hold. You will slough off that anyways. And now I don't know how much weight we can put behind this request as a requirement, but I believe at a minimum you should clean up this entire area to what is the traditional dredged area there, which is minus 12 feet. I don't know how the banks of this, if these are all sloughed off banks, was originally excavated to 12 feet the whole way, and if I had the final say, I would ask you to clean up your entire, frontage to create the navigable, clean up the federal channel. But at a minimum, I think you should clean up the red area that you're already impacting.
Well, your authorized depth, Chris, is 10 feet in the area. It's our federal channel.
They're saying, well, they're going to 12 feet here for the rest of it at the.
Yeah, no, but the federal navigation channel is authorized at 10.
All right, well then 10 would be the requested depth.
Well, I think that's an interesting concept, but from my opinion, for what it's worth, the analogy with traffic with a development, Chris, that's to impact or to mitigate the impact of the development's traffic on the area. Like Home Depot, they were generating a tremendous amount of traffic onto the post road, so they had to make improvements to the post road.
Right.
Here, I don't think we can make that same analogy, and if we did, we'd be, you're suggesting they dredge across the entire channel, and I think if I was O&G, I'd say, there isn't a need for that now, and so we would be asked to spend additional money not to demonstrate not to address a particular need for that dredging. And then what would we do down, if we had a policy like that? I'm not saying we wouldn't want to think about a policy, but we'd have to apply it to everybody,
That's what I'm saying. I think right now we can't, I don't think we can address that right now, Chris, but certainly it's an interesting concept to carry forward, in the future to discuss this with the commission as a whole.
Well, if we can't make it a requirement, I would certainly seek, well, and my point is to the impact. We're talking about doing material transfers from barges. So are we led to believe that none of the material will end up in the channel as the materials brought in and off of barges? I mean, that whole embankment there very well may be from the neighbor across the way transferring material on and off their barges. Is this just sedimentation, or is this impacted by the type of use that O&G and Divine Brothers do in this area, and are the main beneficiaries of the use of this channel at that location, certainly to that depth? So I think it is a direct correlation to, a property use impact on a street, and improvements made to do that. I mean, just coming in and cutting into the bank and saying, I only need to repave this little bit of road in front of my street, and not do it the right way where you're gonna impact it. The right way would be to clean that whole area up, at least in the red. Now, whether we have the authority to, make that a requirement, I am certainly saying that's the right thing to do, and and since the operation is fully in swing there, I'm suggesting that it is not an unreasonable request, if not a requirement.
But there isn't a water dependent use there now and hasn't been for some time.
But they're making it a water dependent use in a method that will impact the channel, that will undoubtedly, spill material into the channel. I mean, barges, they're going to be, using loaders to take material off of barges there. I mean, let's be realistic about what the impact of the channel is going to be. They should at least start with a clean slate.
We know that because Divine Brothers and O&G, they've traditionally had to dredge their barge berthing areas because of spillage from their barges.
Right.
But when we did the federal channel dredging, there wasn't an indication that the federal channel was impacted by spillage from Divine Brothers or O&G. So I think they would make the argument we didn't create any problem there, and it's a federal channel. It's an unreasonable request or spending money on our part to do something for which there isn't a need now. Well, that's just my opinion. I think it's an interesting concept about how in the future to pay or to achieve dredging when there's not going to be any federal funds in the future in any reasonable.
That's certainly a concern that I think every commission with a small and mid-sized harbor is going to have to consider, because we are certainly off the federal navigation project and we're going to have to worry about money for dredging certainly in the near future. But right now, I think perhaps it's something we should discuss as a whole at the commission. And I think under this application right now, I think we'd be overstepping maybe not necessarily overstepping our boundaries, but a little bit on an excess of what really has to be done in this particular area here to remediate. They are cleaning up their bulkhead area. Right now, it's over 3,000, was it 1,200? Let's see, close to, 2,000 cubic yards of material that they're taking out of there, right?
So what's the right way to dredge that area? If they cut into an embankment that's at -7 and they're going down to -12, we think it's okay to leave a 7-foot ledge in the channel. I mean, a 5-foot ledge in the channel. Is that the right way to do this dredging? If they're not proposing any
the aggregate that area, whether it's strong enough to hold
any bank on this, they should at least do a 2-to-1.
Whether it can hold an embankment or not. I don't know that. I'm not an engineer.
Well, I don't understand. Where's the 5-foot ledge in the channel?
There. So the gray area here is going to -12.
Right.
This is at -7 right here. These contour lines, and then it drops down to -10, or the -12 on this side, it looks like, but it's -10 on this side. This up at this edge, there's a 7 there.
Is this a recent map of the area?
This is their application.
Where did the survey come from? I mean, it's the Corps of Engineers survey, but what's the date of the survey?
Yeah, is this a recent?
This is O&G's application. I'm assuming this is current information.
Yeah, but right, but the application doesn't say that the underlying topography in the channel is from the Corps of Engineers. I'm assuming that O&G didn't do that, so they took that data from someplace, and so it'd be interesting.
Well, it's a William Seymour.
Yeah, I see that.
Right, but
survey. They're land surveyors. They sealed it. That we have to take their word that that's accurate information in April 2019.
Well, they've used, Richard can maybe tell us, but it would be very interesting if that upper channel has silted in 3 feet or so since it was dredged, because it was dredged to 10, probably with a 1-foot over dredge.
Yes, we did have a 1-foot over dredge.
And then if you also notice the boundaries of the channel up there, the angled lines, I mean, that was something we worked with the U.S. Congress to accomplish. That doesn't affect the depth, but that's something that we were responsible for to do. But Seymour's drawing here with the dredged areas is 2019, and they're going down to that depth because the DEP has asked them to do that for the purpose of accomplishing the remediation.
Right. So the responsibility ends at that coffin-shaped thing, but
yeah,
it impacts the rest of the channel around it. And And that area has been filled. I mean,
I'm gonna look at
are
that.
they going to come out with a bunch of gravel from Divine Brothers? I don't know. Is it silt from up the river? I don't know.
But they do, because they would have had to have analyzed the sediment for the purpose of figuring out what to do with it.
Yeah. Richard, how was that area determined? Was there a series of core borings taken to determine the relative contaminated area? Do you know?
Yes, exactly. And I believe that was a piece of the application. There was a submittal, I'm looking to make sure. There was a document submitted outlining all of the samples. It was a proposed sediment remediation sheet that was prepared by Catalyst Environmental. So there was sampling done up and down the river along our waterfront, along our shorefront.
It seems like a kind of unusual design or a construct in which if this was effluent, if this was actually effluent coming off the land, how it sort of just accumulated in that sort of that, like in one area there. So you've taken borings and so that you've reached what would be considered parent material on either side of that, where you got a contaminated area and then you don't have a contaminated area. Was that what they did?
That is correct. And I want to say there were in the range of 40 samples taken along this this 1,200 square foot area, identifying what the levels were at various locations in the harbor, in the river. And those were the areas where, again, we were arguing brutally, that the levels were not, they're not above certain criteria upland, but in Deep's purview, they're looking at wanting to remove to a level lower than what is existing there. And those are the outlines that Deep Remediation Department approved as the areas of concern.
All right. Well, I think Chris, I think it's certainly an issue that needs to be discussed, I think, further with regard to water dependent use and also establishments that are located on the harbor that are going to affect the channel. But I don't know how we can relate now to this particular application and what ONG plans right now to encourage an increase in volume to be removed from that particular area.
Well, their dredging footprint doesn't take into account the side slope of the dredging either.
No,
Either in volume or in impact. They're thinking you think you're going to get a 4 or 5 foot slope to stand up.
well, I don't think so. I mean, I don't know what the material in that area is and whether a 5 foot slope it would hold up. And I certainly agree with you on
That's
that.
not the right way to. It's not the right way to do it either. You wouldn't plan on doing a 5 foot slope, even if,
Yeah.
John, you would know best. How far north does the actual channel go, or does it stop where that line is?
I'd say it's about 50 yards up from the Norfolk Boat Club.
It goes up to the Norwalk Boat Club. We cut it up. We had another federal act that cut it off at right below the Norwalk Boat Club.
Right there. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going beyond this property then.
Yeah.
It goes up to Divines, John.
Yeah.
Divines is basically across the river, and then there's a boat club right on Wall Street.
Yeah,
Right.
no, I'm familiar with that, but
Yeah.
And right before that boat club, maybe I'm going to say about 50 yards prior to getting to the boat club, we truncated the channel.
Now that's where it narrows down. Okay. Yeah.
And if you remember, we did that so that the barges that once they're unloaded could be moved down and be out of the channel and not be in the channel, be stored in the channel. The same thing over at ONG.
do we know if Divines is directly across? Do we know if there are issues there as well for migration of contamination?
Well, not contaminated. They've got aggregate that usually ends up in the water, and they've dredged that themselves on a number of occasions.
But we have no indication that there's contamination that's going into the river from those other properties. There may be. Now, this is also, this project DEP described as a voluntary remediation project.
Right.
It's not under an order from DEEP. And that, I guess, affects the type of approval that it needs. And it's also subject to a remedial action plan that was submitted. Richard, tell me if I'm wrong here, that was submitted to DEEP's remediation division for review.
Was.
So they're doing this in accordance with a plan that was approved by DEEP for the purpose of removing the contaminated sediment and improving the environment.
Correct.
One thing I would suggest, for what it's worth, I think that we might want to put in a letter to DEEP. We might want to write to the remediation division and remind them that the Harbor Commission has authority to review everything that affects the harbor, and that in the future, remedial action plans that are submitted to DEEP should be provided to the Harbor Commission for their review, at such time as they're submitted. Because we didn't know anything, about this. That's not O&G's problem. I think in the future, we should alert DEEP that our recommendations apply to decisions not by the DEEP's permitting division, but also the remediation division.
Yeah,
Yes.
good idea. I'd just like to say something. It's not unusual for an agency to require a cleanup of just the area that comes out contaminated.
Yeah.
Because as the clients is concerned, they don't want to clean up anything more than they have to. So they just go by whatever samples are collected, and that's the area that they are required to clean up.
Yeah, and you can see where the channel narrows to the right on this drawing, where there's the angle and the channel becomes narrow. That area that was taken out of the channel, that's the area that was intended for Divine Brothers to move their barges once they were unloaded, so that the empty barges would be outside of would not be sitting in the channel. So yeah, Divine Brothers is right up there on the right.
And how does that, that whole upper channel where the boatyard is, that's all silted in at this point. They're having trouble with navigating, I think, at certain tides, obviously low. And with we discussed the angle before, with the abundance and the height differential from the upper channel, would that now wash into this area?
Yeah,
It'll
Oh, yeah.
probably fill up with sediment, yeah.
of
Yeah.
course. It should fill in over time.
Okay, anybody else have any more comments that they want to make?
Quick question: have they looked at the effect on boat traffic and also the rowings? There's a lot of rowers out there
I'm
most of
not,
the year.
I'm not sure if they go up that far, John.
They do sometimes,
Yeah.
and boats definitely go up and down during the.
Yes, no, there's no question about it, with the North Boat Club. But I don't know how well trafficked that is, and
All right.
whether we can get the Marine Police up there to stand on guard.
But
Well,
that,
we're requiring that for the walk bridge, so
Yeah.
just keep that in mind.
Guys, Mike's over here.
I'm sorry?
Hey guys, it's Mike Silva.
Oh, yes, I'm,
Yeah, Mike.
Yeah, I've been in touch with the Walk Bridge people, and we're pretty much addressing the rowers. We've had a meeting with the clubs, Zoom meetings, and we're addressing closures, partial closures with the rowers. So we're kind of on top of this right now. So we're going to address it as it comes. We know it's going to be kind of a task in the beginning until we can feel our way through it. But it is being addressed with the rowers,
That's the
and they
walk
do
bridge.
go all the way up.
That's the walk bridge. I know that, but
Richard, how long will this project, you estimate the project to take once you get going?
we're hoping if we're allowed to use the long reach excavator, we're hoping that this won't be much more than a 30 to 45 day project.
All right, so, I mean, that's something, like Mike, if that would be an issue, I guess, if there's excessive traffic up there, where the Marine Police would certainly keep an eye out.
If it's going to be like a 45-day project, we can make this work. We're just going to have to tell them that they have to curtail and train in a different way.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of this is going to be, I don't think the right term is go by feel, but we're going to have to get our way through it. And the rowers have actually acknowledged, which I was surprised at, that yeah, we're gonna work with you guys, and it's all about safety. So I think that if it's gonna have to be a temporary shutdown, then these guys are gonna have to train either in a confined space, which they can do, or they're gonna have to train on land, which they can also do. And obviously we're gonna make this work.
Mike, do you see a necessity to have the police involved in like a wet job instead of a dirt job kind of scenario? As far
I'm
as,
sorry, John, you were a little broken up.
all right, do you see a necessity moving forward when this project starts that like a dirt job, you have a wet job where there should be a police boat there at any particular time?
Yeah, there's definitely we have to be out there, because if you talk to a Charlie or Gary Wetmore when we were doing the testing, there were people at night who were trying to come right through the work zone. And the thing about these tugs, the smaller tugs, not the big tugs, the smaller tugs, is they really have a lot of torque. And there were a couple of times where a couple of rowers were trying to like come through the work zone. So, yeah, we had to actually push people away, and they were actually giving Pete and I a little bit of resistance.
All right, so
Right,
part of our recommendations though in our approval process should be that they must coordinate with the Norwalk Police Department and the harbor master for the course of the length of this operation. Now, you're going to mostly work, Richard, daytime or nighttime as well?
No, we're expecting it to be a daytime operation. And,
Okay.
and we have documented in there, I believe, we obviously would be in coordination with Divine and any material movement that they are planning. We expect to maintain navigation throughout the entire operation. If we need to, the only thing will be honestly, the size and location of the turbidity curtain and booming. So if that needs to be scheduled and moved accordingly to maintain proper access in the channel, we're more than willing to adjust the work.
Right, but what we want to address is also the safety issues within that channel.
We'll make that comment in the recommendation. So I can see moving forward with the application, providing you get the proper permits and assurances from WPA. We'll indicate usage of the Marine Police, Harbor Master with regard to the dredging project, the traffic, and with best management practices, again, as far as disposal of the material. I said I have no problem moving forward with the overall project.
All right, anybody ever have, Jeff, you want to put another comment in there?
I think, John, instead of just moving forward, wouldn't you say that this is consistent with the harbor management plan in terms of providing opportunities for future water dependent uses and also improving the environment?
That's usually our head on a project.
With the conditions that the disposal of the material and the dewatered water, is handled properly.
Right.
And that they notify the harbor master and coordinate with the harbor master and the Marine Police.
And we'll make also recommendations.
Yeah.
The remediation.
And then I'd also suggest that we write to the remediation division and ask that in the future that they direct applicants who have submitted remedial action plans to contact the Harbor Management Commission.
We'll put all that in an application, and Richard will get a letter out to you.
All right. So all in favor of the application?
I have one additional comment request that
Okay.
we receive a post-dredging survey of the area. I believe that's a requirement for DEEP, and that we would be given a copy of that so that we have a record on the condition of the channel in that location.
That's a good idea.
Good point. Yeah, thank you, Chris.
Okay, all in favor?
Right, aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? I'll say, so moved.
All right, so
We'll put together a letter and you should get it in a
in a few days, Richard.
few days.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Much appreciated.
And Richard, before you go, the survey drawing that you have, maybe you could just let us know what the source of that is for the channel contours that you've got on your, all right, so the most recent survey that the Corps of Engineers did up there that's on the Corps' website was 2009. And that doesn't have contours. That was the after dredge survey when we dredged the upper river. It just has depths running in a line across the upper harbor. It seemed like your survey had contours in it. And so I don't know if that was done by you or you took that from somewhere else, or if you can just let us know where that came from.
Sure, I'll reach out to W. Seymour and
All
ask them where that came from.
Thank you.
Then a 3-to-1, was it a 3-to-1? Was it a 1-to-3 cut? I think on the harbor up there. I think that's the usual. All right, any event. All right, let's move along. Our second application is for 48 Calf Pasture Beach Road in East Norwalk. The applicant is Norwalk Cove Marina, and they proposes to conduct improvement dredging on approximately 120,000 square foot area located in the vicinity of the South Dock region in Cove. 7,467 square foot area is located outside of a previously authorized dredge footprint and has indirectly been impacted by prior dredging projects. The previously authorized depth dredge area was -8 feet, mean low water, and this depth is insufficient to accommodate the deep draft vessels that will utilize the western and southern strip created by the recently approved floating dock configuration in the area. The applicant proposes to increase the dredge authorization depth to -13 feet with a 1 foot allowable over dredge with a 3-to-1 side slope. Proposed disposal of approximately 24,500 cubic yards of marine sediment is planned for the western Long Island Sound and Willis, and the sediment analysis were provided to DEP, and the Army Corps and the agencies have determined that the material is suitable for open water disposal with the proper capping material on top. So I have asked Mr. Westmeyer to attend and provide any additional comment or helpful points to work us through the project.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Hi, good evening. I'm Jeff Westermeyer with Triton Coastal. We prepared the application on behalf of Norwalk Cove Marina. As the summary indicates, the primary purpose of the dredging is to accommodate deeper draft vessels. Now that the South Dock configuration that your commission had reviewed previously has been approved by DEEP and the Army Corps, you have vessels in excess of 100 feet in some spots along the South Dock configuration. So deeper dredge footprint is needed to ensure that these boats can have the full tidal access and account for siltation that will occur over time. And the dredging, with the exception of the triangular area shaded in gray, is all within the existing authorized dredge footprint. And since we've initiated our pre-application phase with the commissions, we've received feedback from the Army Corps of Engineers that this will be reviewed under a typical programmatic general permit application. So there's no subsequent submission to Army Corps other than what we submit to DEEP as part of our application. The Deep Fisheries Division, the Marine Fisheries Division, has reviewed the project as part of the pre-application phase and indicated no concerns with respect to finfish species and did not recommend any changes to the project design. And with that, certainly happy to answer any other questions that the commission may have.
Jeff, you have a question?
Jeff, have you submitted the application yet?
No,
do-
we're on, this is the pre-application phase still. So what we're, so what you have seen is a draft application, what fisheries have seen, what,
Well, Jeff, I put an application on here. This is the pre-application.
yep,
Right, but I just say, in the materials that were sent, there's a statement of the notice of application that would go in the newspaper. So you're just saying that that's a draft, it hasn't gone in yet?
exactly. Everything is in draft form.
Okay,
Final.
okay, that was my question, because we still have to, we're doing the pre-application consultation now,
Right.
Yes.
which you need to submit your application. All right.
Correct.
That's my fault, Jeff.
Correct, Jeff.
My fault. Because I do have the pre-application form,
Right.
section E, that we have to fill out for them. Yes. Yeah, did they give you an indication as far as the volume of cap that you're going to be required for your area? That you can,
There was no indication. Usually it's equal to the authorized volume.
and that's a 1-to-1. You're talking about a 1-to-1.
Usually it's a 1-to-1, but they did not give an indication. So far, it's just been a suitable amount of material that in itself is suitable for open water disposal and confined.
Did you, an indication of where you might get that cap material from?
Not yet, because we don't know when this dredging could get approved, so we won't know what projects are going on at that time. So there hasn't been that initial coordination with respect to a capping plan.
So you're under 25,000 cubic yards, I think, right? Yes.
Just under 24,500.
I think that's a cutoff figure, isn't it?
It's the volume that will allow you to not to do biological testing.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Put you under the gun.
put you right under that.
Yeah.
that cutoff.
Yeah. No, Jeff. Yeah.
But the availability of the cap material is a big issue, though, Jeff.
Mm.
I know the town of Fairfield has a relatively small project that they've tried to implement the last 2 years, and there's been no other dredging projects in the central Long Island Sound site that could serve as a cap for just a small project like that.
Right.
And so typically it's the large Corps of Engineers projects that would provide the cap. So, well, you got to get your approval anyway before you can worry about that. But
Right.
Have you considered any locations of where you might be able to get some of the remediable material? Cap
no,
material?
Not at this point, because we were only recently told in June that it would require cap.
Yeah. Yeah. That's yeah. Right.
Typically, material here hasn't required capping, so we hadn't really anticipated that at this point.
Does any of the commissioners have any questions on the application?
John, did we have a drawing or a map of that? I didn't see one earlier in the emails.
Oh, well, I sent it. Well, I sent out the application to the application committee members, not to the full commission members. But I can send you a copy of that. No.
I didn't know if he was going to share something as an overview or just give us a concept.
You want Jeff? Do you have the diagram handy, or I can?
Sure. Yeah, I do have. I have a plan view here. Haven't actually tried to do screen sharing before on this.
It's the area right before the bulkhead out there, Matt. Right behind the bulkhead.
Okay.
Apologize if I can't get a screen sharing. Oh boy.
Well, Brian can help you with the screen sharing.
Yeah, so Jeff, if you have, is it a PDF?
Actually, I'm home, so I don't have a PDF with me. I literally just have when I'm holding up here, unfortunately.
I can pull it up, Brian. Let me pull it up.
I have it open here.
Yeah,
Okay.
fine.
Nope, I'm sharing the wrong.
That looks like it, Chris.
You
Yeah.
got it? Okay.
Good job, Chris.
And the next sheet is actually the proposed, actually shows the outline of the proposal. There you go.
I don't, I see it. Okay.
Yeah.
There's the cross sections there.
So the proposed footprint is a portion of the existing authorized footprint. We're not proposing to deepen the entire portion of the authorized south dock footprint. It's just the western portion where the larger boats would be berthed, and as it approaches the channel for access.
So is this the Scott's Channel? Is it the privately maintained, that's Scott's Creek or whatever it is?
Yes,
Charles Creek.
Charles Creek.
Charles Creek,
Charles Creek, okay. Newest.
Charles Creek, which is all, but it's all maintained by Norwalk Cove Marina in this area.
So the federal channel's all the way in the lower left.
Correct.
All right. Would you use a vessel to do the soundings on that, Jeff? Looked
Yeah,
like,
this was done by a hydrographic survey vessel.
Yeah.
These soundings are from 2018.
okay, yeah. Does it look like a, sort of someone just wandering through?
Yeah. Would be-
Yeah, certain surveyors, they use planned lines, and certain surveyors kind of just meander through as they go. This particular survey looks like it might have been a combination of both.
Well, John, just for the sake of expediency, this is a pre-application, so why don't we,
We'll send it again. We'll fill out the application indicating that we have no objection to move forward with the application. And we reserve the right to review the application when it finally goes out to public notice or further information becomes available. We have our standard boilerplate application, actually discussion for that.
Certainly. And Dr. Pinto, you'll be able to email me a copy of that?
I will send that out to you as soon as you put
Great.
it. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Any of the commissioners have any objections or issues with the overall project, or want to discuss the project, or?
no, just I'll put a motion forward to repeat your motion, John, that the full commission puts forward.
Yeah, we have no objection to
The application is a pre-application with standard language.
Right, and then we would move, and then we would reserve our right to review the application finally submitted, and it's.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved.
All right, well, moving forward.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
Have a nice
Thanks, Jeff.
night, gentlemen.
And I'll get those letters. We'll get those letters out. The letter
Thank
out.
you.
And all right, let's move on. We have review of tentative determination to approve notices. And the first one on the list is the City of Norwalk wastewater treatment plant, which has issued an application for renewal for their permit, and they want to authorize the discharge of up to an annual average daily design flow of 18 million gallons a day, secondary treated municipal wastewater. We had a number of issues that we wanted to discuss with Mr. Kolb, but he cannot make it this evening. And he did send me a letter with regard to some of the comments not completely addressed as far as I was concerned, that we would need answered. And that was, one of them was the overall carrying capacity with the increased building and renovations that they're planning around Norwalk based on the West Avenue area, the East Norwalk area, and the number of people that are going to be flushing toilets and taking showers. How much can this treatment plant contain? So if you allow me to read what he has put down on his comment to perhaps some of our statements. He says, "Why the WPCA is unable to join this meeting this evening, we are providing the following information to help inform your discussion regarding capacity. As you can see from the data below, the Norwalk Water Pollution Control Facility is well below the capacity threshold set in its operating permit by the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. We hope that you can share this information with your members. My contact information is below if you are." Right. So his first point is that the Norwalk PCF is an 18 million gallon per day advanced wastewater treatment facility. In 2012, an upgrade to its headworks system installed 6 new main lift pumps, allowing the facility to handle wet weather flows of up to a peak of 95 million gallons per day. Under the City of Norwalk's National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit currently in force, the WPCA must evaluate expansion for future flow. is when the arithmetic mean of the average daily flow from the POTW. I'm not exactly sure what that stands in. Anybody, Joe, do you know what the POTW stands for?
I do not, John.
Okay, it's obviously an acronym. I usually like people to put down what the
Public treatment works, John.
yes. I'm sorry, John.
Public treatment works. Public.
POTW.
I know it's treatment works. Public.
It's treatment works.
Okay.
Yes.
Fine.
Publicly operated treatment.
Publicly
works.
operated treatment works.
Yeah.
Okay. It's from the
Yes.
flow from the POTW for previous 180 day exceeds 90% of the design flow rate. The permittee shall develop and submit within 1 year for the review of the approval of the commissioner a plan to accommodate future increases in flow to the plant. This plan will include a schedule for completing any recommended improvements and a plan for financing the improvement. It's a C section 4, condition L. Per the NPDES permit, the WPCF must have an average flow of 16.2 million gallons per day over 180 days for it to automatically trigger future expansion discussions. The WPCA's most recent data indicate that the facility is well below the triggering threshold through August 2020. The WPCA's 1 year average flow is 11.5 million gallons per day and a 3-year average flow of 12.6 million gallons per day. That's what we're currently dealing with right now. So anyone have any questions on this overall permit?
Now, John.
Yeah.
This is not a preliminary application, or is it?
No, this is this. They would like us to comment by November 8th on this application. My concern was, again, I don't know if we're getting information as far as the increased requirements that this plant is going to need. Will this still have the capacity to handle the volume of people that are going to be coming into this vicinity?
Well, that's getting to my point. Should we not try to wordsmith a requirement that all future development, which now would put more of a burden on us in terms of reviewing the flow that needs to go through the water treatment plant, but that we have a bite at that scenario to make sure we're not overburdening the plant.
Well, I don't know. Joe, do you have any comment on that, Joe?
The only thing that I could think of that might work here, John, is that plant is based on a specific population. And any development that takes place that goes beyond that population, there might be a formula that you can work out that the developers then are responsible for paying for increased capacity. Does that make sense?
Well, again, I don't know how many condominiums and how many buildings and how many office buildings are going to be planned as NOAC moves forward in the future. But this is I understand this is a tertiary plant, as I understand. Is this correct?
No,
Do they use it as a that it's not?
it's a secondary plant plus. It hasn't gone full tertiary yet.
Oh, okay. Huh. John, you had a question?
Can you request a more detailed analysis?
I certainly would like to, because I don't know if we're getting the right answers here. You know,
Let's just say that don't worry about it. We have plenty of capacity, but you don't have any numbers
no,
to
you're
back it up.
right. Joe, should there be something be coming from the Water Quality Committee to review?
That's part of what we asked about, because we wanted to know what was the capacity built on, what was the premise of the figures they have now. And then going forward, let's say they put in 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 units in the future.
That's right.
Where are we going to be? And who's going to foot the bill for it?
Well, that was the biggest concern, again, when we reviewed that application, looking at the limitations of what the plant can, and then when adding to that, when I heard O&G that they wanted to use that facility also to pump all of that water through their plant there. Is that all part of the overall capacity of that plant to handle materials such as that? To handle, for example, heavy metals or antimony, lead, whatever's going through, you know.
John, it's Jeff. Could
Yeah, Jeff, I'm sorry.
the comment period, this would be in response to the DEP's notice of they intend to approve this.
Right.
But the comment period, before the comment period is up, the Water Quality Committee and the Shellfish Commission would be meeting. Could perhaps either the committee or the Shellfish Commission ask Mr. Kolb to come to their meeting?
That would be, I can certainly, I'd love to make that recommendation because I think we should talk to him in person about this.
You know,
Not
and,
boilerplate response here.
you know, otherwise, you know, I think all we would be able to do is reiterate the policies in the plan.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
talk about managing the treatment plant according to best available technology, and
Certainly.
also expressing our concern about future capacity to deal with planned and anticipated development, and ask that before any decision is made, that the city provide a statement, you know, as part of the permit process to attesting that they've taken all this into consideration.
I certainly agree with that. And I think
And
Shellfish
then-
and water quality would be the two of the committee,
Yeah.
commissions and the committees that would have most value in this.
And then we could reserve, if we learn something more at those two meetings, water quality and Shellfish, we could reserve our right to say something else.
I
And
agree.
we have something to say as well, because when they get a rain event, they do an overflow. So that obviously affects the shellfish, but it affects the river as well. You know, anytime and that happens often enough that there is a discharge from there.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a public safety and health issue as well.
No, I agree. Joe, your committee will be meeting soon?
Yes. We're due, let me check. I think it's
Next Thursday,
November.
Joe.
Hang on. Should be November 5,
Next Thursday.
right?
The comment for this is November 8th? Yeah.
John, what did you read at the beginning of the meeting, of this? I have the doc.
Oh, this was a letter an email that Ralph had sent to me just this evening, as a matter of fact,
Okay.
indicating that he could not attend. And he gave me a sort of a boilerplate review of what the overall capacity is and what they can do and what they're capable of doing now. You know, but it doesn't address what Norwalk is going to be facing in the near future. At least my estimation from that. So I think in interest of time, perhaps if maybe Joe or the Shellfish Commission can have Mr. Kolb attend one of their meetings, since he couldn't attend ours, that they get more direct answers.
Could you share that email? Because I'm looking at this report and it seems it's too granular there's no real overview here.
On what? On the
Well, the permit, the document you sent, there's nothing.
wait, you're talking about the water treatment plant's permit, or what the email that Ralph had sent to me?
Yeah, if you could share what Ralph sent to you, because the permit, the document you sent to us doesn't.
Oh, no, that just came tonight, just about it, not even about 20 before a meeting came. Yeah, all right, I'll send it over to you.
Yeah, I'd like to understand this better.
Right here. Let's see. Okay, forward. Okay, you should, yeah, we should, all right. That was just sent over to you, Chris.
Thank you. Yeah, I've got it.
All right. So, Well, okay, in the interest of time, I guess then we can move forward with this. We'll certainly wait for additional information. Joe, if I got it, we can encourage maybe an extension of an invitation to Mr. Kolb, perhaps to address some of the issues that we have.
I'll do that tomorrow morning.
And then maybe the Shellfish Commission people will do the same thing if they want to have
Mhm.
an interest in this. All right. All right, well, then we'll move forward with then. There's nothing really to vote on until we hear some additional information. So we'll move to our next application, which is 52 Shorefront Park. Again, this is a notice of tentative determination to approve. And this was the application submitted by Franklin Tuck. We reviewed this and I sent around the previous comments that we had. And it talks about proposed activities consisting of constructing a pier with a pier head and a boat elevator. This application I know was under a number of considerations by the neighbors with regard to that application. I know it's Chris. No, Chris is not here. Not Chris. Steve. I think Steve had reviewed this application. I don't know if I had seen, as far as I'm concerned, there's really no of major concern. There was a infraction, I believe, on there, and they disallowed a after the fact permit to move forward on this application. So it's just to deal with the pier head and boat and elevator.
I think the neighbors' issues were sightline issues.
Yeah.
And I don't know how we weigh in on that because
Yeah, I know.
it's something that if they want to have a dock, a pier, whatever, we need to facilitate that. That's why they bought the house on the water.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, as far as the commission is concerned, there was no, here I have, let's see, where's our comment here? We had, our previous comment, again, is basically some of our boilerplate points is the policy of the Norfolk Harbor Management Plan that no float or vessel attached to the float rest on the bottom during any appreciable tide cycle. And it points out that the applicant's plans do not show the applicant's extended littoral boundary lines. They do have that indicated in the plan, the current plan now. So so that we had indicated that the Norfolk Harbor Management Commission assumes the adjoining property owners do not object to the applicant's proposed insofar as the proposal is modification of an existing approved structure. There has been pushback on that application by the neighbors. And the applicant should notify the harbor master again of any work vessel working in the harbor. We have that. Other than that, I don't have any additional information as far as.
Was there a reference letter in there from Shellfish?
Not here. Be advised that the following, the Norfolk Harbor Management Commission received written comments from the Shellfish Commission, including a recommendation for winter removal of the ramp and the floating dock structures. So that was their request.
And how do we feel about that? We want to make that part of our final.
That would be in our final review or recommendation.
All right, so you want to put a motion together?
Anything that would not be there is that the applicant has indicated the littoral boundaries. We had made mention of that, and also was the aspect of the application being by a certified engineer or graph, and that was done.
Jeff?
John, if you're going to eat, do you mind turning off your camera?
I'm sorry?
I'm asking John Romano to turn off his camera unless he brought enough for everybody. We don't want to see you eat.
You guys all eat at 5 o'clock.
All right, I'm sorry, Jeff.
John, DEP indicated today that they thought that the objections from the neighbors had been addressed and that they modified the application so that it just, the dock or the pier just goes out to the end of the wetlands so that there's no additional encroachment. And the only thing we might mention is that when they show the extended littoral property lines, the dock is pretty close to those lines. So it's closer than what our normal guideline would be.
Was that
So I
25 feet?
I think we'd have to say that, that due to the property configuration, that by not having an objection to this, we're not saying that every dock can be close to the property line. We're in effect making an exception here because of the narrowness of the lot.
Wait, I didn't, is it less than 5 feet, Jeff?
Maybe we want to say that we assume that the neighbors do not object to the proximity to the property line, something like that. That's the Corps of Engineers guideline. If a dock is to be closer than 25 feet to the property line, they'd like a statement from the neighbors saying that they have no objection. But I don't think we'd want to imply that we're okay with every dock being up close to the property line.
Okay.
Guys, excuse me. I'm getting spotty coverage here. Which property are we talking about? Because I've done a couple of inspections with the Shellfish Commission.
This is Shorefront Park.
What number? I'm sorry.
52, Mike.
It's not the one, Mike, with the problem that you look with the unpermitted stuff. This is farther down. It's 52 Shorefront Park.
Okay,
There's
yeah,
nothing there
I'm
now.
not.
Yeah, that was,
I've got no.
that was higher up.
Okay.
Problem. Right.
Okay, that's good. Then I'm not.
You're breaking up, Mike.
Yeah, that's because I live in Bethel and it's a piece of crap town. So I'm sorry.
Somebody might be listening. The mayor of Bethel might be listening. All right.
Yeah, I really don't care. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not involved with that one. Okay, I got it. So I'm not involved with that one. I did 2 others with the Shellfish Commission. So we're good. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't involved in one that.
Those are higher up in the number scale.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll go.
Oh,
All right, so we'll modify our previous comment and send it in minus and with that additional comment, Jeff, as far as the proximity to the rural boundary lines.
Yeah.
I'll add that to the statement. All right. Anyone have any objections or? Yeah.
One more thing, John, I don't know I'm talking too much, but Steve Bartish just sent me a message saying that he's going to be calling in, and he asked Brian if when Steve calls in, Brian's phone number ends in or Steve's phone number ends in 4740. If Brian could unmute Steve when he calls in.
I think that must be him right now. I see it.
There he is.
Yeah, he's
Okay.
here. Great, thank you, Brian.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Steve.
Steve, did you have a comment? We're talking about 52 Shorefront Park.
No, not other than that we've already submitted in the pre-application attachment D,
Right.
which I don't have in the car with me.
No, but we have the comment here, indicated your comment in our previous recommendation and comment.
Yeah, and it's unchanged. Thanks, John.
Okay, great. All right. All right, well, we can move along. We have
Put the motion in, let's get it seconded and vote on it.
for those, yeah. Should we repeat the motion? Again, we're going to go with the previous comment. We're going to remove the aspect that the littoral boundary lines have not been included. They did put the littoral boundary lines, but we will make a comment with regard to the proximity of their dock within the 25-foot limit of Army Corps' recommendation of a dock being next to someone else's property, basically.
Is there a second to the motion?
No, all right.
Alan Kibbe seconds it. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions?
John, you're making me hungry, John.
So moved.
All right. The next application is by Barbara Johnson at 67 Bluff Avenue. And again, she also proposes to install a pier, a ramp, and a floating dock. And this activity will affect coastal resources, as she indicated. We have our previous recommendation that that we had indicating, let me see here. That I think we did have, Steve, you had comment on this one as well, did you not? On this?
We did, John. We
Yeah.
did, John.
So this was, yeah, so I don't recall, I don't think we have that here, Steve. What was your comment on that?
Again, I don't have it in front of me right now, John. I'm in the car.
Oh, okay.
Was removing the boulders and replacing the boulders.
No, this is not the,
No, no, no.
that's
That's
7.
not that one.
That's the next
Oh.
one, son. No, this one here, no, it says here, again, it was with regard to the dock and the placement of the dock. And it says here that the application with the Shellfish Commission regarding the applicant's plans are forthcoming. And it's the policy of the harbor administration that no float, again, we had this typical boilerplate information on as far as the recommendation that no dock or vessel on that dock rest on the bottom. And that the applicant would require any of the work barges and construction vessels to work with the harbor master for proper placement during off hours. And that was basically it on that application. There was no other contention as far as, again, wanting to hear what the Shellfish Commission. Yes, Jeff.
I think we should add the same comment concerning the proximity to the littoral boundary, because the way they've extended the boundaries and the proposed dock is 10 feet from the boundary. So I think the same comment would apply here.
All right.
It doesn't mean it's a blanket relaxation of that guideline of 25 feet.
Right.
We're assuming the adjoining property owner doesn't object.
I'm writing that down.
It also looks like one of the other properties. Is this 69 or 67, John?
This is well, no, 67 and that's the confusion. 67 is I think either husband's house or someone, but the applicant's from 67, but the project is at 69.
Okay, so they're basically right next to Row 8 and Yacht Club.
Right. Yes.
That's the literally the boundary is right next to us. So it would be the two docks, the two piers at Row 8 and Yacht Club, and then just, I guess, technically north would be, steps away to theirs.
Yes. Yes. Okay, please be advised.
Yeah, they got it 11 feet. What did I say? 10, 11 feet from the property line.
Yeah. All right, so we'll include that also in that application. Neighbors. The same thing with this is Bluff. And the other one is 52 Shore. Okay. All right, so we'll add that as far as our recommendation. Want to move forward, John?
Yes. So you want to make a motion on this application?
A motion to go with our previous comment
Any second?
and with the addition of the
Comment.
littoral rights being,
All right, Alan seconds it. All in favor?
aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved.
Okay, the last application is one that is at 7 Nyclick Terrace, and this is again a notice of determination to approve the application. It's from Thomas Jutterhock, who proposes the activity to include a construction of a new 3 by 30 foot ramp and an 8 by 25 foot floating dock. And part of the issues that we had and the Shellfish Commission had was the removal of 3 rocks to grade level. And I have a letter from the Shellfish Commission with regard to that proposed activity. And Steve, you want me to read it? Do you have it, Steve, or do you want me to? I can go through this.
No, I'm in the car, John. I'd appreciate if you do. And then if you'd like me to comment on Deep's comments as far as the Bureau of Aquaculture, I can do that as well. But please proceed with Shellfish. I'm driving.
I'll read very quickly with the comments from Shellfish, is that we have determined that the work described will adversely impact Shellfish area. This is a summary of our recommendation to mitigate the damage to this natural shellfish bed, as this local tract area is indicated on a certain map indicated by the map of natural oysters, et cetera, town of Norwalk from 1882. It goes, all right. There's a greater than 100-foot floating dock is okay, as it accommodates 2 boats. The proposed rock removal represents significant habitat destruction and is opposed by the commission. These rocks are well outside the footprint of the proposed structure, which we've seen, like we can pull this up on a map if we'd like. The commission formally requests expanded rock mapping outside the areas in drawing number 7. No boat size guaranteed by the commission. Smaller vessels than depicted may be more appropriate for the local conditions. Due to the local fetch and extreme wind and wave conditions frequently seen in the area, the commission requests that the boat owners submit an alternate dockage location to be used during storms. Significant damage to local natural shellfish beds could result from sunken or leaking vessels in this area. Total encroachment length and width should be identified. The ramp approved with water removal, with winter removal and off-site storage. The floating dock approved with winter removal and offsite. Okay, 18-inch floating dock stops, and any construction barge must be removed from low water to mooring. And it says mooring location and technical specifications to be approved by the Norwalk Harbor Master, which we've also indicated. And no vessel or structure other than the float stops may touch the bottom at mean low water. The commission will conduct site work inspections to review the compliance.
John, can you pull up the plan on this one again, please?
Hold on.
The satellite looks like they already have a dock on the property.
Yeah, let me,
There's a pier on the property currently, and they'd like to add a ramp and floating structure to it.
Okay, so that's the piece that we're seeing on the southern portion of the property.
let me see here. Get this here. Ooh, Harbor. (2020). Let's see here.
I have it on my screen, John. I don't know.
I have it here, Jeff.
Okay, it's page 16 of 19.
Let's see. Well, here, Brian, can I share? Let's see. Would I be able to share a screen here?
Yeah, if you go down to the bottom, should be that green area.
Yeah, here we go.
Share screen. Just that.
How's that? No, wait a minute.
There it is.
Yep.
All right, let me see if I can flip this over here.
Yeah.
No, not that one. So go back to that page you're on, John.
Uh-huh.
All right, and then it's the there's another arrow like straight to the middle at the top. You see that kind of circle, half circle? There you go.
Okay, here we go. All right. Let's see. Yeah, this is the area right here.
Go down, John. It's.
Oh, here we are. Here's the two vessels here. Right. Now they want to remove, I guess, the rock where the X's are here, right?
There it is.
Yeah, they have three rocks
Yeah.
here that need to be removed. I don't know if you can see my pointer right here.
Yeah, that's for navigation, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, but not a hardship to get in and out.
And is that the bay side or the other side? The club side?
Let's see, it's an aerial view here. Let's see, it might be up here.
To my
Just-
memory,
it's just
the rocks
west,
in question.
southwest of Road
Oh,
Point,
Correct,
Okay,
right.
so that's at the point?
just before the point. It's the cove just before Norton Point.
Go back up, John.
Right here?
Right there, right there. Yeah, no, the other one. Right there.
Right.
So that's the very last house at the end of Nyclid then. And that's where I have a little bit of confusion because I built a pool at 7-9 Nyclid, which is the house just before that.
See if I can turn this.
Well, this house in question has a pool too, John.
No, I know it does.
Oh, it's,
So the application is 7-9. It's a shared facility between 7 Nilkid and 9 Nilkid.
Okay,
It,
so,
it adjoins the property line.
okay.
yeah, the project site here, right.
Probably why they want 2 vessels.
Right, and they're, I guess let's go back down here.
So that is actually on the bay side then.
Wait, where is that thing here? We had to, oh, right here. Yeah, here's the site here.
Mm-hmm.
Crescent. So this is, yeah, so this is where they want to remove, I guess, this series of rock here.
Right, and the Shellfish Commission objects because we feel that that's prima facie habitat destruction. I also personally believe that there are hydrological concerns when one moves rocks like that. Those comments have been echoed by the Department of Agriculture, Bureau of Aquaculture, and their conclusions that the rocks be moved, so they didn't state where they should be moved. I think this goes in line with the Shellfish Commission asking for a survey of the rocks in the area. And again, my personal opinion is that these should receive nice buoys and be left alone.
Well, the DEP didn't have any objection to that comment, Steve. That I recall in their response to you. Is that correct?
To what comment, John? The DEP made a mistake as if they hadn't read any of this. And certainly they didn't read Dave Carey's because they made a mistake by basically rubber stamping it. And then after I sent my comments in objecting, they went back and looked at the attachments and they found out that aquaculture did in fact object and that they suggested that the rocks be moved, I assume for navigational purposes. And guys, there's a lot of rocks I'd like to have removed. Everyone has their riparian rights, but I don't think anyone is guaranteed rock removal for navigational purposes, especially for a certain size vessel. I think that's a very slippery slope to be getting into when these rocks are well off the structure. FYI, the current pier did have a rock at its waterward terminus, which was adjudicated, and that rock was allowed to be moved. Personally, I could see that, but these rocks that are well off the structure are, in my opinion and the Shellfish Commission's opinion, habitat destruction and unnecessary and unwarranted.
Just let me ask you a hypothetical question, Steve. How about if they extended it out further beyond the rocks? Is there an issue with that?
I think you're talking about a very long extension to do that.
Say again?
And again, I think you'd be talking about a very long extension to do that because the pier is already built. So I mean, there's a limit as to how long you can make a ramp.
Right. Yeah, that's already set.
Okay.
John, is there any background or any prior history of attempts to move structures like this that have gone through or not gone through, just as a reference?
Not that I know of. Not that I know of. That I recall in the recent history.
Yeah. So I can't cite particular cases, but I know anecdotally there have been rocks removed that were not permitted, and that went to Army Corps, and Army Corps made these applicants replace them.
Yeah, and I think there was one issue also where we had up near right next to Calf Pasture Beach, actually Shady Beach. That area, what was the area? We're at the there was someone that wanted to change the bulkhead, and
yeah.
the Army Corps certainly refused that because that would change the entire wind and wave action in that area and cause different degree of erosion following, again, wind and wave action in that area. So that was refused. Well, under the circumstances, again, does any of the commissioners have any other further comment on that? Jeff? Jeff?
The Harbor Commission isn't obligated to follow the Shellfish Commission's recommendations, but the Harbor Management Plan does have a policy to protect shellfish resources. So if the commission wishes to do this, we although not obligated to do this, we could point to the Shellfish Commission's findings and recommendations and support them.
Well, I agree with that. I mean,
and support those concerns and the potential impacts then as being inconsistent with the Harbor Management Plan.
That's correct.
But Steve, what do you want them to do? Did you ask for additional information that wasn't, or additional review?
Yeah, the only additional information that I remember is what's in that attachment D. Asking for the rest of the rocks to be mapped, and that would give a lot more information in terms of what's possible there and what's not. Are we just clearing a local area and there's still a lot of rock beyond that? My recommendation again would be to get a few bleach bottles, some polypro, and 3 bricks, and call it a day.
Did the Bureau of Aquaculture feel that this would have an impact on shellfish resources in their response?
In terms of hydrological concerns, yes. Okay, so they said that the rock should be moved, but not removed.
So one approach would be for the commission to find it, because of those comments, that this is inconsistent with the Harbor Management Plan's policy. It calls for protecting shellfish resources.
That's correct. That's right.
And then we want to make a recommendation as to how to deal with the rocks, I guess.
I think I have that letter here. Wait, hold on. Let me get this letter.
What are the options to deal with the rocks? I mean, you've got a $5+ million house, and they're looking to have a dock. They do have, like Steve pointed out, riparian rights. What accommodation could be done to allow them to do it as a recommendation?
I mean, John, I think this is analogous to, those that might have boats or excuse me, the waterward terminus of a pier, dock, and float structure, like in a mudflat. I mean, where the commission could recommend a more shallow draft vessel, and the flavor of the Shellfish Commission attachment D speaks to that. Because one wants a 26-foot center console or a pair of them doesn't mean that it is warranted in a particular area, given navigational hazards, etc.
Right. Steve, does the plan point out what the depths of those rocks are at, let's say, mean low tide and high tide?
I don't have.
John, does that show up on a plan?
Wait, let me.
They're 1 to 2 feet below mean low water. The surrounding water is about -3.
All right. It's my memory that they are immediately subtidal, right, Jeff? Chris, rather.
I'm We're not objecting to the dock, we're objecting to the removal of the rocks.
Yes.
But the rocks impede the navigation.
Depending on how good of a navigator you are, yeah.
Right.
Or what vessel you're navigating.
Yeah.
But Deep is saying in this letter that they overlooked that. And so that they overlooked the Bureau of Aquaculture's comments, and they've referred this back to the applicant to address.
Well, yeah.
So one approach, John, another approach is just if someone interferes or has an impact on a coastal resource, they may be able to affect that resource, but they have to do something to mitigate the impact.
Right. So then do we want to push it back at
adverse
them?
impact on shellfish resources.
Would that be the way to handle it? Is to push it back?
They should do something that mitigate that impact.
Well, I don't know I'm not an engineer. I don't know what they would do to remediate any impact that they have. But they did indicate, it says here, what the DEP had written, this is Jeff Kiola, is your October 5th email has been referred to the applicant so that they may address the matter directly with the North Shellfish Commission. While we hope that all concerns raised by the North Shellfish Commission are resolved prior to the application submission to the DEP, we realize that this may not always, that this is not always possible. And it says
the paragraph above says that aquaculture is recommending relocation of the rocks, not removal.
right, relocation in water out of the navigation area.
Mm-hmm.
And it says here, we very much appreciate the local expertise of the North Shellfish Commission and the time and energy it takes to assist with the pre-application consultation. So again, they're relying on the North Shellfish, the expertise of the North Shellfish Commission as a recommendation.
No.
That's, as I read it here, I don't know how. I mean, again, I'm not a wind and wave expert, and where to place a rock to remediate or perhaps to eliminate any potential problem on shellfish resources. I don't know what in those could be done, but in this case here, it doesn't look like, again, with proper navigation, they're not going to be jumping the gun and racing their motor to get out of that slip there. They're going to have to negotiate around that rock because it looks like just an L-shaped navigation. You can't go straight in.
Looks like there's a half a dozen or more other rocks just outside of that.
Yeah. Well, I didn't see on the. Let's see.
Well, they wouldn't be.
Are these movable rocks or are these pieces of ledge sticking out of the ground?
Well, see, this is what I don't know either, Alan. I don't know if these are just actually rocks just sitting in the water or it's part of the tip of the iceberg, so to speak.
Right. They wouldn't be the only ones in Norwalk that had a tidal slip either. I mean, obviously at a higher tide, you could sail in and out of there with all kinds of vessels. Lots of people have to be aware of the tide when they move their boats.
Yeah, well, here, let's see. Yeah, they already had that one removed that was right under their dock. That's here. And let's see, doesn't look like there's anything other than those three here that are scheduled for their proposed removal.
And Shellfish had asked for a survey of a larger area to see what other impediments there are to navigation in that area.
Well, what should we do with this now, guys? I mean, as I said, I have no objection to the first comment that we made with regard to the proposal that it's our purview to protect shellfish resources, and certainly relying on our fellow shellfish commissioners that this would create a problem in a shellfish concentrated area.
Did Deep give us an out by asking them to come up with some kind of a plan to remediate this issue?
Yeah, that's what they said here.
Okay,
Okay,
so does that give us the out of sending it back,
yes.
waiting for that remediation or their plan to?
Yes, it says here, this is why we hope, that says here, your October 5th email has been referred to the applicant so that they may address the matter directly with the Norwalk Shellfish Commission. While we hope that all concerns raised by the Norwalk Shellfish Commission are resolved prior to the application submission to the DEP, we realize that this is not always possible.
So then why don't we table it
Yeah.
until a remediation is addressed?
We can do
Or
that.
negotiation or whatever.
All right, and we can send
Yeah.
to that regard, because they do acknowledge, again, they would like the expertise of the it says here, we very much appreciate the local expertise of the Norwalk Shellfish Commission and the time and energy it takes to assist with the pre-application consultation.
So let's table it with some language that puts it back on them.
But I think we should write, John, within the comment period.
Yes,
And-
yes.
and Perhaps say that we're not able to make a favorable determination or a favorable recommendation at this time, pending, the results of the DEP requested additional information between the applicant and the Shellfish Commission.
Shellfish Commission. We can do that.
Is there a second to that motion? Alan?
Alan?
He's the seconder of record tonight.
Mhm.
All in favor?
No, all right, I do agree.
Any objection or abstentions?
None.
All right, moving right along.
Okay. All right, we'll get all those letters out. I said we got to certainly work ahead of us in the next couple of days here. There's no question about it, but we'll manage it.
All right, now we'll go to the body of the regular meeting here. Get rid of that letter, John, please. My chairman's report is going to be limited to the pain that we all feel in the loss of Tony Mobilia. It's quite a shock to all of us, and including his family. And from where I'm sitting, I'm going to very much miss Tony and all the help that he brought and the wisdom and all the years of experience and the passion and all what he's done over all of the years. So at this point, I'd like to actually go into the segment where we're going to address doing some memoriam for time forward, recognizing Tony's contributions to the harbor. And I'll turn it over to Jeff because he did quite a bit of work putting this stuff together.
Everyone got a copy of the tribute that was put together? There were two documents that were put together very nicely designed. Jeff, thank you very much for that. That was certainly a very well
I
presented.
think maybe our task is to think of how we can do something that's a lasting tribute to Tony, such as naming a waterfront facility after him. We have the Donovan Boating Center. I don't know what else we've done in honor of other chairmen. Tony wasn't an original member.
Donovan Center.
Can you hear me, John?
Yeah, but Donovan Boating Center. We did that.
Tony was not an original member of the Harbor Commission, which was appointed, I believe, by the council in 1985, and then started working on the plan in 1986 or the end of 1986. But the minutes that I have, he first appeared on the Harbor Commission in April of 1987. So I'm assuming he took someone's place, one of the original members' places at that time. So he was involved in the preparation of the first harbor management plan, He was involved with the Norwalk River Watershed Initiative. He was involved with the updates of the plan, most recently 10 years ago. He was involved in all phases of the dredging project, and of course now with the Walk Bridge project. So he's really contributed as much, if not more, than the other, outstanding members of the commission. So if there's something that we can think of that we could do that would be a lasting tribute to him, I think that, in my opinion, that's what we should be thinking about how to do.
Let me just weigh in on that. I know the city does have some kind of policy about naming buildings or bridges or the like, and I think it might be a minimum of a year or greater before that could happen. And water-wise, in theory, we will be having a police facility and harbor master facility built, whether it's in Veterans Park or on the other north of the Straffolino, where the old marina was after the dredging and the work on the bridge is done. So that's an area that we may want to consider, or an idea of naming after Tony. But that doesn't stop us now from doing the plaques that you've come up with. And it's just a matter of determining where we put those plaques.
Right, John. And I think, Tony worked on the panel that we prepared for John Frank that's down by the fishing pier at Calf Pasture. And we could do we sort of started on it, a similar interpretive panel, perhaps on the harbor management plan and its importance to the city, with an inset to Tony, just like we have for John Frank with regard to shellfish management. That's something that doesn't take any permission from the city to do, just a place to install it. So we could work on that right away, and then long-term think of some other lasting tribute. Yeah, Tony, interestingly, when we were working on those two tributes for him, I had a question and I went to call. Started to call him to ask him how to fix it, and then I realized that that's the reason I was working on it. But
well, I don't know if we need to vote today which one. I'd like to see maybe even both of them be put into placement somewhere.
Yeah.
And one of them could be just as put onto the side of the building at the Donovan Center or in front of it.
Yeah.
Right.
And we can pick another location as well for something else, So, I mean, we could get working on them. If everybody's looked at those interpretive panels.
Yeah.
And no one has any objection to it, we can move forward. And I know Jeff will probably want to tune it up to a degree. We can just start to move forward on getting that done. And
guys, guys, it's Mike.
Yeah, Mike.
Just knowing how long it takes the city to get things done, and they're going to have to go through siting commissions and whatnot for that building down at Vets Park. And I know I'm not going to be here when that happens. I was just thinking that the city launch itself, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't have a name. We could put maybe Tony's name on the launch down at Vets Park. In the meantime, it's going to take a while for the that building, if it does happen, to come through.
Good point.
So I was just thinking, I'm not sure. I don't think that there's any name attached to the Vets Park launch, but I'm thinking, excuse me, that we could actually get Tony's name attached to the Vets Park launch, because we definitely have enough pictures of him on that launch. So just a thought.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Anybody else want to have some input? Jeff?
No. Thanks, Mike.
Well, we have a little time to do this. It's all recent, very recent for all of us, and we're all want to honor him in any way we can. So let's take that under advisement, and let's get the finalization of those plaques done, similar to what we did for John Franks, and let's move forward on that.
Great. Thank you, John.
All right. Staff reports. Harbor Master Scully. Are you with us?
I'm here.
All right. Do you have a Harbor Master's report?
We've nothing new. The vast majority of the boats are off their moorings. As we all know, the Swanee was sold, 24,000. Other than that, really nothing new. People are taking their boats out a little earlier this year than in the past year. Few inquiries on new moorings. I told them come springtime, we'll go through the process. But other than that, really not too much.
All right, Greg, talking about moorings, I mean, we have a declining, except for the managing fields, the city moorings, we have a declining base on those moorings. And part of the issues that we've recognized is people to put their dinghies in. Can we get more proactive with this and have those areas recognized? See if we can build a rack or a pole that they could tie off to, or something along that regard, and also look into the transient moorings.
I thought a couple guys that were going to had a committee that were going to look for or talk to the city about a spot to keep dinghies, because that's one big issue.
I think Alan did some work on that, recognized a few spots.
Okay.
I did some work, and Chris McDonald has done some as well.
Yeah, that's one of the deterrents on people coming in, looking for moorings, is not having a spot to keep their dinghies. Most of the properties on the water in that area are either private boat clubs or private marinas. The only thing that's really public is the Vets Park finger docks on the other side of the launch. But that's one major hurdle for newcomers, know where to keep the dinghy.
Yeah, Chris and I had identified a number of like street ends in East Norwalk and all, and I did you ever get anything from the DPW, Chris?
I have not approached them yet. That's on my to-do list. I haven't done anything with it.
Well, obviously, we need to do more work on that and come up with a definitive plan. And I think it might be the Department of Public Works.
Yeah, and the issue with that is going to be for parking for these people. If it's a little, entry zone at the end of a street, now you've got the issue of parking for the people that go there. Because it's, most of those spots, I know what you're talking about, are right next to residents' homes. One of them, as you said, was the path was covered over with bushes with no access to it. So, and I'm sure if we do that, we're going to have the complaints of the residents that people are parking on their streets, taking up the space that don't belong there. And
plus the people that have taken over those spots and call them their own in their mind.
That's the thing. Exactly. They think it's their spot. And, we get calls like that all the time that, hey, this part is a spot, blah, blah, blah. But, you look at some of the streets they did around the beach area for the out-of-staters and out-of-towners. They made it resident only because of issues like that. So that's one issue that I was thinking that may occur if we do it. Are they gonna fight and petition to have resident parking only?
Well, is there ever going to be more than one or two cars at a time on a block that's public parking anyways? I mean, nobody actually has any rights to prevent somebody parking on their street.
No, I understand that, but
that's right.
They did that down by the beach area for the out-of-staters.
Sure, but that's hundreds of people. That's a large crowd.
Oh yeah.
We may have to give a parking permit or parking stickers for you know, for 2 or 3 cars at the street end, where there are 2 or 3 moorings that you would access from that point, and it's more work for the commission, but we could just give a sticker for the car, and there's only 3
Sure.
stickers given out for that little street end.
Yeah, that would work.
For the transient, we need to, in my mind, you need to have something available behind the Donovan Center, because they would come in through the city docks, the ramps, the launch ramps.
Right.
I mean, Alan, what are some of the places that you're considering for a mooring for a dinghy?
Places I know are all the street ends in East Norwalk. There's Tony Itoro's front yard. It's
Right.
public property. I mean, there's a whole building lot there that's not his, that he has a flagpole on. But all those streets along there have a public access place. There's also, you know, Fitch Point. I don't know if the commission should have a point of view on that, because that's kind of a land grab that's going on down there. I don't know what's right or what's wrong, but that used to be public property when I first moved here.
Is that off Osborne?
End of 5th Street is where they gated off Seaside Place.
Seaside Place, yeah.
Or the end of Cove Avenue down there.
Oh, yeah, I drove around. So I'll share my screen. I went through in Google Earth. I drove around this area, and so I think we're talking about this area now, 5th Street to Cove, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, there's the end of Cove is probably the street really goes right to the water's edge there, and
yes,
it's fairly protected there. There's I guess some neighborhood association has put in sort of a paved bench area here, although I think the property here is actually owned by these people.
Those property owners have the property on the water, but going back to the end of Cove, up on the bumper screen, that's a very frequently used area for kayaks, paddle boards. You know, I would easily see, I mean, there's a half a dozen, maybe 6, 8, 10 moorings in the basin between there and where you were looking, you know, a minute ago, going south all the way down towards Shore and Country Club, which is just out of view to the left corner.
So there's a couple more street ends down here, Blackstone Drive.
Off of Tenetta, that whole area.
And then this is the one where, is this at Decker?
So
There's Decker, and then there's this is the one where the guy has his hedge built up, although, you know, according to the city GIS, Dorian Street goes all the way to the water, Decker goes all the way to the water, Blackstone goes all the way to the water.
It's Dorlawn Street. But that's Tony's place now. But that's you know, his property line, not to knock anybody in particular, but his property just goes right next to his house. There's the beginnings of a road that goes where Dorlawn Street, you know, heads in there, but it's all been kind of landscaped up. But there would be room there to park 2 or 3 cars in there and have a little float out at the end of the dinghy ramp. And maybe the way to do it, depending on the number of moorings we can sell, is to do a little kind of accommodation at the end of several of these streets.
Put a rack in or something?
Yeah, a rack or some way to lock up a dinghy, you know, onto you could have a slope, kind of a dock with a ozite kind of surface on it where you can just drag your dinghy up onto it. We'd have to decide what makes the most sense and a way to padlock it so it doesn't disappear on you.
Yeah. So those yellow pins, Chris, are areas those are potential areas you're talking about.
Yeah, I looked through the city GIS. It has all the property lines on it, and all of these locations are locations where, at least according to this, the city right of way goes to the water's edge, and there's no property owner, and you know.
Right. Well, if you go down Marion Avenue, that looks they made it look like it's all private property back there.
Well, there's like, you know, there's a there's a little bench here and it, you know, and both Wallace and Marion, so it looks like some association is taking care of that, but it's
Yeah, those steps actually were decrepit and became a hazard. So they had to be replaced. And the city
Right.
said, we're not doing anything, put up a caution tape.
okay.
Yeah, and the houses, those houses next to Marion they happen to own the property on the other side of the road.
Right, and from Marion to Wallace, yes, I think.
All the way upriver.
Yeah, those property lines go all the way to the river.
And what's in dispute now is over in front of Seaside Place. What's happening there. There used to be a road there. Now
Yeah.
people are putting their lawn across the road.
Where's that?
Oh, did they try to take that out fully now, Alan?
What's
Yeah,
that?
it's all
gated.
grass now.
They
You
put
can't
a,
get in there.
they put a gate right there.
Yeah, the gate's been there for on and off for about 6-7 years, but I didn't realize that they were. I guess I haven't walked over there
Well,
lately.
you can see where the road is over the left side of the picture there.
Yeah,
There, and the gate is on Fifth Street. If you go up a little higher, and that gate is all locked up and overgrown and you can't open it.
right,
The gate's right there below where it says Fifth Street.
right.
So
Yeah, 'cause
that's all being,
that's North Bloom's house, right across the Fifth Street.
If you go back a dozen years, these aren't very clear, but somebody, when I first looked at this, the road was still there. There's still a drive. This is 2006. There's a road there.
Right.
And then you fast forward a decade and it's, like you said, it's been a land grab.
Right.
So I don't know what the status of that. I didn't have enough information to like say anything. And then on this side of the river, I was trying to figure out, the GIS has this area. This is by the boat club here in this parking lot. It's hard to tell where the property lines are. It looked like North Street went all the way to the water's edge, but I couldn't tell. Shorefront Park, there isn't anything, but Loud Street, Seabright, Seabreeze Place, Loud Street, I think some people, I take this shortcut all the time, and this sort of goes to the water. This one here, I don't know if it's here or here. The local association has sort of put up a fence there and say this is Harbor Shores, I think they call themselves. And then similarly down here, Neptune Ave, the right of way used to go all the way over across to connect to Neptune Ave here when there was a bridge there 60 years ago, or however long ago. That's still technically, I think, under city right of way, but that's sort of something else people have, appropriated. And then none of this is, and then forget this one, my neighbors, but anyways, this is all private streets, so anything that even touches the water is not city property.
Well,
Could this go to a committee discussion and make a report at the next meeting again instead of?
I had sent a letter to Steve Puppet and asked about all the number of these properties, because there's a lot of these pieces of land have no assessor's card in the city records. There's no nobody being taxed for them. There's no
Why don't we,
ownership. And I kind of asked for Steve to help out. He really hasn't responded to that at all.
rather than hash this out now,
Yeah.
why don't you, the committee of Alan and Chris, continue to work on this? And let's be diligent about it and come up with some positive recommendations once you've vetted them out with the city departments to what they can verify is actually city property.
Right.
And what procedure would be needed to go if there's been any adverse possession based on, different rights that are created if you transverse over a property for X amount of years, that you can lay ownership to it as a right of way and the like. So Jeff, you have a comment?
Ability Act.
This is like deja vu all over. John, we've got a letter that you wrote, John Pinto, when you were chairman, like 25 years ago, to the some member of the council with a copy to the mayor and a copy to Parks and Rec, asking just these same questions.
Yeah, but I think now it's also got to be a feasibility issue. I mean, you can have a boater coming in, they might moor at the visitors dock or someplace nearby, and then they're going to go across the pond with a dinghy. I mean, it's got to be some sort of logistics issue as far as the proximity of where they're mooring their vessel is where they're going to keep their dinghy. So
that's what I would like them to vet out. And
Yeah.
Dennis, do you want to work on that committee as well? Because you've got more of a feeling with the moorings of where they are and where our erosion of placing moorings is taking place. And obviously Greg would act as a consultant to that committee as if needed. So we need to make that determination, because right now we've got a committee working on looking at not tax, but charge for use. And some of that need is based on our erosion of income, and we need money to operate and for future endeavors within the harbor. So, I mean, it's important that we continue on this path and move forward on it. Do you want to also, Matt, be involved? Because you're also on that other committee as well.
I'd be happy to, John.
All right.
And
So
I think Alan and I were talking about it a little bit at length a couple of weeks ago.
yeah, because I think it would behoove us to be nimble about this now and come up with a definitive plan, because I also have a new ask for a budget from the city for our next year. And it'd be nice if they knew we had a program that we were working on. I'm sure we bought time under the COVID auspices, things us not being as nimble as we could have been. And the motion that we were in earlier in the season was kind of thwarted quite a bit, obviously, because of the virus. So we need to state that case and make that case moving forward, going in for this budget. Jeff, you?
Yeah.
Also, John, I'm sorry not to interrupt, but I think maybe the coming season, if we can implement the boat user fee, that would definitely help us a lot.
Yeah, but it's not going to happen this season, because there's still, the committee is working very diligently, I must say, under the circumstances. They're just starting to meet with the various boat yards and getting input back from them. It's going to need to go to a public hearing sooner or later. It's got to go through the appropriate committee at the Common Council. So, I mean, there's a lot of, it's not that we just wake up one morning and wave a magic wand. It's not that simple. The earliest that we could put something in place for would be we were hoping for 2021, but it's going to be more like 2022. So if that would be if we can set that as our target moving forward, let's stay on top of it. Joe, you wanted to say something? You got to unmute yourself, Joe.
Joe, you're on mute.
Some of those public accesses are state records. And the DEP has a map indicating some of those public access ways. So it's not just a city thing, it is also a state thing. And Norwalk is required to have a certain amount of public access. The other thought is, if we get pushback from some of those property owners, one of the things we may want to look into is their tax records. Are they paying taxes on that property that they're now claiming is theirs?
Well, no, they're not, because it's not deeded to them.
Correct.
Again, let's put this in committee again. Let's look at it. And I think let's look at it in a realistic way. I mean, some of the properties in the street ends are so far removed from where someone's going to be coming into Norwalk. That's, having a dinghy half a mile away it just doesn't make sense.
It wouldn't be for visitors. Visitors wouldn't know what this is. This would be for residents to keep a dinghy.
Right. For access.
Or mooring, mooring holders.
Okay.
Visitors want to be at the visitors dock, want to be near Sono. They're not going to, there's no way to direct them to dinghy to some side street in East Norwalk. a mile from anything. It's for people who have a mooring further down in the harbor, so we can so more of the harbor is attractive for people to have a mooring.
Right.
It wouldn't be for visitors. That's really can't be the point of it.
Right, and the transient moorings will be for overflow from the city dock because that's so as limited as it is.
Correct.
So, all right, moving forward, put it into committee. Next on the agenda is Jeff. Do you have anything to?
I was just going to say what you're talking about. It's a policy of the harbor management plan that opportunities for improving physical and visual public access to Norwalk Harbor through city-owned street ends should be identified and evaluated.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So the committee has its mandate.
Yeah, and part of the reason for evaluating them is to look for reasonable opportunities for providing access to mooring areas. So what you're doing is serving to advance the harbor management plan.
Which is always a good thing. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
All right, Shellfish Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll go very quickly. So thanks, Harbor Management Commission, for your comments tonight with respect to the 7 and 9 NILCID pursuant to Deep's letter. Thanks from Shellfish. There was a site inspection of 28.5 Shorefront Park. Comments from the Shellfish Commission will come after our Thursday meeting next week. Thanks to Officer Mike Silva and to Commissioner Kibbe for helping out with that. Rest in peace, Tony Mobilia. Your Shellfish friends and colleagues will miss you. I yield back.
Okay, thank you. Mooring and harbor safety, Dennis?
I have no report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Finance. Obviously, this is where this was Tony's bailiwick, and he would like to do. I've spoken to Alan Kibbe, and he's agreed to take over the arduous task of working as our finance director. And Brian, can you weigh in here a second?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, Brian, can you help guide Alan through the gauntlet of being introduced to the various departments he has to interact with?
As far as finance?
Yes.
Sure.
And it's just a matter of putting a report together. They actually pay the bills. We have a set-aside account, but it's, you know, we don't write any of the checks or anything. We just collect money and give it to the city to deposit, that kind of thing. And I don't know if there's a specific box for the treasurer of the Harbor Commission, or it's just a general box that Harbor Commission related stuff goes into. So, but that'll be all sorted out. We'll work together with that too. And then we have an upcoming budget to put together.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I could help Al, because I'm up at the controller's office all the time making deposits. I know some of the gals up there, so I could help.
Perfect. That would be very helpful, Dennis, just to bring them in and ooze them through the system. And while you guys are up there, if we can get a copy of last year's budget that we submitted and approved, it's got to be in their department because they parallel budgeted items to see where we're at and track it. So, and we're going to need that fairly shortly, Alan, because the city wants a new budget put into place fairly quickly.
Sure.
Okay. Plans and recommendations. Jeff isn't here, but he sent out a report to where they were. So I urge everybody to read the report to where that committee was. Is anybody on that committee want to weigh in on anything? Go ahead.
Yeah, John, he's got a couple of Wes, one of the members, has been able to actually get 2 small groups together. Total Marine was the last, had a fruitful meeting with them, got some good comments. I've reached out to a number of people from Cove to Rex to some of the shell fishermen. So we're hoping to get those done over the next couple of weeks. Again, we've been hounding them for months actually, and
Right.
Dealing with the whole, Zoom related issues has been a real challenge with more of the traditional, hey, come stop over my dock and let's talk about it, folks.
Right.
So that's been a little bit of a stumbling point for us. But
And elbows, doing elbows.
yeah, you know what? That's this new normal is not conducive to getting people to sit down and talk about stuff like this. So,
Yeah.
but Jeff's got a good background from the two meetings that have occurred, and we're basically putting words out. Hey, listen, we want you to have your voice at the city level, and in order to do that, you got to talk to us. So that's kind of where we're at now.
Cool, thank you.
You all should have received Jeff's report, right?
Yes.
It was distributed, right?
Yep. Nothing on bridges, unless you have something to put in there, Pinto?
No.
We heard from the bridge meisters.
We have not heard anything from this DOT with regard to all of our previous questions.
Okay.
But we as far as the assessment for the vessels between the bridges and any other comments. So that's still forthcoming, hopefully.
All right,
Jeff, you want, yeah.
Should we again inform Mr. Grzywinski at Deep that we don't yet have comments for him on the revised application because we're waiting for the additional information?
We had discussed that and,
I think we should let him know that because every month we said that we anticipate getting additional comments to him.
It's appropriate to follow up with a letter once again this month.
All right, well, we'll do that.
Yeah.
Okay. If there's any public on the horn, this is public comment time. If not, forever hold your peace till the next meeting.
Until the next meeting.
Approval of minutes. Has everybody read the minutes that Johnson? I'm sorry, Joe, I missed you. Water quality.
Yeah, thanks, John. I sent all of you a link to the Long Island Sound report card.
Yes.
2020, that came out just after the Shellfish and the Mayor's Water Quality Committee meeting. I took it on because when I looked at it and looked at the rank that they gave Norwalk, and some of the measurements that they did, I was a little miffed, to say the least. Failing the Upper Harbor just did not make sense to me, because you can't fail a natural process. It's what Mother Nature does. And I wrote to them, I told them basically what I sent you in writing, so that you'd all have a copy of it. I don't know if they're going to address it, if Save the Sound is going to address it and take a look at how they're doing their report card or not. But they did get my feelings on the process. Also, the sampling they did and the conclusions that they got from it. For example, doing a chlorophyll A test is a wonderful thing if what you're sampling has chlorophyll A. There are times, for example, when our harbor doesn't have as much chlorophyll A as it has other types of plastids. For example, we get periods where we are loaded with diatoms and they have different plastids. We have times when it's loaded with brown algae, different plastids. So it's not a complete measurement of what's going on. And they're not sampling plankton. All they're doing is the chlorophyll A. So you have that in writing. When you get a chance to take a look at it, I'd be happy to answer questions if you have any. But that's it in a nutshell.
And Joe, just to clarify, if they were rating the plankton, does that, because they're like feeders, does that put us in a different light in terms of water quality?
It could, because what the plankton do is they can impact the oxygen, but they can also impact what they call HABs, harmful algae blooms.
Right.
And there's about 6 harmful algae that can be found in Norwalk. And when they're present in large numbers, then you have other organisms dying, and that uses up oxygen. because they're decomposing. And it's also generating carbon dioxide, which can then impact the acidity of the water. And it's a chain reaction. And for years, when I was at the aquarium, I asked them, let's do plankton studies and try to identify them to the best of our ability. And the problem is it just takes a long time and it takes an experienced eye. And they weren't willing to invest the money to have staff do that. So it was just done on a cursory means. What was the most common you saw, and that was listed on their database. So that's where we are. And the report card is a good idea to get people looking at things, but there's got to be a better explanation.
I would think from Shellfish's point of view that to have a report out there like that can't be the best thing based on the shellfish industry in our area.
Well, it's one of the things they pointed out was that the nitrogen levels have an impact. And yet they had no test results for nitrogen. And ironically, one of the things I asked them is they pointed towards the sewage treatment. Did you test upstream from the sewage treatment plant? Could it be coming down the river? You know, did you test south of the sewage treatment plant? And then also, did you compare this data or any data to what the Army Corps of Engineers does, aquaculture does, Dick Harris does, and Earthplace? And some of the data they use, like the dissolved oxygen, is Earthplace, but not all of it. And when I talked to Sarah, she said she had nothing to do with writing the report. All she did was give them their data. Now, Jeff had a great idea because Jeff and I spoke earlier in the week. And Jeff, don't let me steal your thunder.
No, you know much more about it than I do, Joe, but a couple of years ago, we had the same issue, and I'm not looking to criticize anyone, but my thought is that if the Harbor Commission and the Shellfish Commission pay for data to be collected, then that data shouldn't be used for purposes without the permit. That shouldn't be used for other purposes without the permission of the Harbor Commission or the Shellfish Commission. Now, I don't know what data, if data that we paid for has gone into the preparation of this report. I know a few years ago, I think it did, but I think that should be clear that we certainly as a courtesy, that if an entity collecting data from the harbor that we pay for, they should not use that for purposes without the permission of without our permission. I don't mean to be annoyed about it, but and our goal is public outreach and identifying problems and solving them. But
the other issue,
get a handle on what data is being collected and what we are paying for, what we're paying for, and what the data is being used for.
The other issue here, John, is that when that data is collected, if there's something that raises a red flag, the Harbor Commission should be notified immediately.
Yeah.
Not, this report is this is a 2020 report, but this is data from last year, not this year. So, they're saying Norwalk did a bad job. You failed with that upper harbor. How did we fail? Did anybody tell us? Could we have done anything about it? And if we can't do anything about it, that should be recognized, because some of this is just natural process.
Yeah, but I don't know what kind of control we have over them.
Correct.
What their mandates are. But there could be like us giving them our paid for information and them doing what we request is a spirit that comes under the spirit of cooperation.
Yes.
So we could make that a requirement to be sharing the data, that whatever data aside from what we paid for, comes up, that we immediately get informed. So if there's any remediation or issues, that we're in front of it instead of just reacting to it.
A year later.
No, it's also contributing to the wording of the report.
Right.
We have no input whatsoever.
Right. But the data should be shared, John. That would be our goal. The data.
Absolutely.
Here
I
to
don't-
solve problems,
Yeah.
but I think as a courtesy, if the data that we pay for is to be used for some purpose, then we should know what that is. And if we're paying for the data, that there should be a report provided to us,
That entity is a fairly new entity.
what did they do?
Are they gonna come out with an annual report, every other year report, every 5-year report?
Every 2 years.
Every 2 years, so every other year. So we have time, but let's, time is always of the essence, in my opinion.
Joe.
To put them on notice, what our future thoughts and expectations would be.
Joe, based on your analysis of water data, based on current information that we have in Nog Harbor, is that a reasonable assessment that we've gotten?
No,
Not, again.
no. And it's primarily, what I pointed out to them, because I had hired the young man that's in charge of doing the data analysis when I was at the aquarium. And that's when he first started doing this water quality sampling. And I told him, I said, getting low oxygen levels is a product of temperature. It's a product of what animals live in the water. It's a product of the weather. There's so many variables there that we do not have control over. And one of them is the geological structure. You have basically from Oyster Shell Park north, a potential for a dead zone. And if you get large schools of menhaden in there, we know historically the oxygen tanks. It's gone. Now, you're failing a part of the harbor because menhaden moved into it. Come on. That's a natural process.
This was done by Save the Sound.
Yes.
Is this a philanthropic organization, a granting organization? Do they seek grants?
Yes.
So there's their answer right there, Joe.
Yeah.
They're sort of trying to stuff their own coffers.
Yes.
Calling attention to something that perhaps is not there, or maybe.
If it is there, I want to see evidence.
Exactly. So I don't really trust their data at all and their analysis.
But we're not funding Save the Sound. I didn't mean to.
No, but it's like anything else. There might be creating a problem that might not necessarily be there.
Right. But I think as a courtesy, they should discuss their
what is
with the Harbor Commission, since they are doing work in Norwalk Harbor.
The worse the Long Island Sound is, the more money they can clamor for.
Correct. And I think one of the points that indirectly works towards them is Sarah Crosby's money for doing sampling in the harbor, which she then shares the data with them, comes from the Harbor Commission.
Yes, and the Shellfish Commission.
And the Shellfish.
Yes. Yes. Well.
All right, well, let's think in terms of what kind of demands we'll make on them.
Yeah.
Moving forward, and we'll discuss that next month.
Thank you.
And have a letter going forward. All right, next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. John Crespo sent them out ahead of time. Does anybody have any changes or amendments or to the minutes whatsoever?
I got 2 amendments today. I guess I'll submit them. I'll incorporate them and then submit them to Brian Baker later, maybe tomorrow or so.
All right, besides those 2 corrections that have been amended in John's finalization of the minutes to move forward, any other items that need to be addressed on the minutes?
You got my comments, John, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so John put a motion through that we accept the minutes as amended.
Yep.
All right, a second.
Second that.
All right. Any objection or abstentions? Seeing none, so moved.
Okay.
All right, any other topics before we adjourn? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Could we come over to your house for dinner tonight there, John?
I'm already done with dinner, but I can always cook for everybody.
I think you already ate it.
I think.
Except Chris. Chris can't come over.
Oh.
All right.
I'll bring the wine, John, all right?
Well, I have cases of wine here too, so.
Oh, so you see, you don't need me. All right, I get it.
All right. Thanks, guys. Great
Thanks,
meeting.
guys. Have a great week.